All right, and there you have it. That was John Wertheim talking about the state of tennis. Some interesting stuff from John there. Be sure to follow him on Twitter at John_Wertheim for more great tennis insights. But up next, we are going to talk a little movies with the great John Stanko right after this. All right, we are back here wrapping up the show this week, talking some movies with our resident film critic on the podcast, the host of Stanko's Stance, the great John Stanko. John, welcome back. How are you?
Thank you for having me, Mike. I'm doing all right. How about yourself?
Doing pretty good. I got to say, in the routine of the quarantine podcasting, I feel like we have, you know, how Billy Joel recently had the, what do you call it, the regular engagement, MSG. I feel like we have a monthly engagement where it's like Sandra Rosa, John Stanko back to back every month.
Hey, I don't mind that. A little bit of pop culture check-in, a little bit of movie check-in. We'll cover all the bases that we need.
Yep, we did. Last week we talked about Space Jam with Sam. This week we're going bigger picture movies, and I have to say, John, it's been a while since I've been to the movies.
Yeah, I haven't been to the movies since I think it was the first week of February, doing some research on my own. So it's been a while for myself as well.
What was the last thing you saw in theaters?
The last thing I saw in theaters is a movie that probably nobody's heard, but it's called The Lodge, and it's an independent horror movie made by a pair of foreign directors. And Mike, it is not a happy movie. It is dark. It is extremely unsettling, and the ending had the audience in stunned silence for like 2 minutes before anyone got up, because it's just not happy. So, and it tackled the toxic aspects of isolation and religion, and kind of combined the two. So that's the last movie I saw in theaters, because that's what I like to do on a random Tuesday night, is go see movies like that. But it was very, very good. It was a great movie experience. But that is the last movie that I've seen, The Lodge, at the Alamo Drafthouse.
Yeah, what was your grade on that movie?
I give that a B plus.
Yeah, so The Lodge gets a B plus. The last thing I actually saw in theaters was the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. That's the last thing I've seen in a theater this year.
I actually just recently saw that, and let me tell you, Mike, it was not as bad as it ought to be.
No,
it was not terrible by any means.
No, it was definitely a pleasant surprise considering the amount of bad things that were happening to it prior to the movie coming out.
Yeah, they made up the most for it. I think they embraced what they had, and definitely some parts didn't work, but some parts did. And I mean, they're going to make a sequel. The movie made a ton of money, and it got some positive press for video game movies. So, props to them. MVP of that movie was Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey was magnetic every time he was on screen.
Oh, no doubt. And I think it's just tells you something about the fact that we've had the movie shut down for so long. I think right now, that's the number 3 grossing movie on the year is the Sonic movie.
I mean, yeah, I can see that. The thing is, it plays to both kids and adults a little bit, because adults remember playing the game, and kids will see a blue furry animal that talks in a funny voice and makes pop culture jokes, and they'll be like, "Oh, interesting." So it tackles both demographics.
It does. And right now, the movie industry is in a bit of a crisis here, because obviously, with all the shutdowns from the coronavirus pandemic, most theaters around the country have been closed for a long time. Ones that are open now, like, they have obviously reduced capacities, and they don't have any new films to show, because I think the next new film on the calendar is Christopher Nolan's Tenet on July 17th. And we've talked off air about, you think that this could be a sort of a speeding up here of a new normal for the movie industry. What did you mean by that?
The thing is, I think that while the movie industry now is in really big trouble, I think it's been on a steep decline for quite a while. I think that Netflix, once it dug its hand in the dirt and said, all right, we're going to do Oklahoma drill movie industry, and we're going to create our own content, and we're going to see who comes out on top. I think Netflix and the streaming services have begun pushing around the movie theaters, and the movie industry as a whole. So I think that the state of the movie industry is going to have to make a permanent change, and it was very reluctant to change anything. But now, rather than making a gradual change, movie theaters, movie production companies, Hollywood itself is going to need to make a drastic 180 kind of switch to try and adapt and get people into the movie theater to watch their type of movies. So I think trouble's on the horizon, and the thing is, the movie industry had a chance to kind of prepare for it. Instead, they have to do one last defense at the OK Corral to try and save their industry.
Yeah, I definitely get the sense of that because I mean now people have been home for so long. They're used to seeing these movies on their big television screens and they can pause it when they want. They don't have to pay $15 for a ticket, another 10 for popcorn and a drink. So I could see the threat right now. This is when Netflix putting out their own original content, and we saw Universal basically put Trolls World Tour right on demand. They did pretty well with that.
They did very well with it, and the thing is, like you could only buy it or you could rent it, but the rent was $20 each time. And I know parents who had to rent it for 6 straight weeks, paying the $20 every week, and it's constant purchases of that. Personally, I hate that because I am just speaking for myself. I don't have the funds to spend $25, $20 on a rental. I can't do that. Like I can't do that every week. I'll spend maybe $3 if I really, really want to see the movie, but I can't do $20. So the at-home movie experience, which the coronavirus kind of brought to the forefront on the platforms, it's not good for the people who went to the movie theater as a way to escape, get out of their house, and like thought as like, all right, here's my fun money. I'm gonna spend $20 on a ticket and go escape for a while. You don't get that same enjoyment when you're doing it at home. And so, unless you have a reason to rent it to literally occupy little kids like Trolls World Tour, it's tough to really commit to it.
Yeah, I agree to that. And also, it's just sort of a big deal, just this whole idea that you're thinking about, like, the whole experience of the movie theater has to change because, like, right now, it's like people are going to have considering all the downfall the economy's had, people have a lot less disposable income to do it. And I don't think the idea of sitting in a crowded theater with like a bunch of people spending $25 for 1 2-hour movie is gonna fly as well anymore.
No, and I would agree with that, and that's where movie theaters have to kind of change their policy of how they're going to make money. Because I think from what I've heard, that concessions was a huge way in which they made a profit, and that's why things were so high priced so often, was because that was the easiest turnaround for cash, and the margin of profit for the theaters was in the concessions. Now, like, how do you combat that? Do you raise the ticket prices? But you could say, all right, it's bring your own snacks, bring your own drink. Like, is that a way to kind of raise ticket prices, but you can make it a more custom experience for the people who go? But in that case, how do you police the alcohol or stuff like that people bring in when it's not like a movie going experience that would be beneficial to that kind of beverage consumption? So there are different ways that the movie theaters can kind of approach it. I'm going to tell you a pitch that I have, a dream, Mike Phillips.
Sure.
Is a dream. You know how if you go like virtual golfing or Top Golf, you get like a lounge. And it's like you can get 10 people in a fairly like isolated area, and you get like food, drink, and you're just focused on the one thing that you're doing. Especially in like virtual golf, you literally have a screen in front of you. There's 10 of you around. You're hanging out, doing whatever. I would be very curious if a movie theater would do something like that, where instead of big rooms of people, where you have like 200-seat theaters, you have mini rooms of like comfortable couches where you can get like 8 to 10 people, and then you have like the new movie playing on a really nice projector, a really nice screen with like food and drink that they can hang out, watch the movie. These rooms are soundproof, so if you want to hang out with your friends watching a new movie and talk during it, as if it's like a horror movie, and say, "Oh no, don't open that door," and scream like that. Or if you have for me, if you have 8 people who, like myself, would like to just sit, kind of like watch the movie and like be really into it, you could have a room like that where if you get friends together and it's quiet like that, you could have those different kind of experiences. Now, how much do you pay? Do you pay for the time? Do you pay for the amount of people? Stuff like that. That is, I wonder if they can go to something like that where you're not going to have as many people in as big of a room, and also these rooms then you clean after and stuff like that. So that's a pitch and a dream I have, is that movie theaters, if they change to that, they can cater to people wanting to hang out in smaller sessions and smaller groups of people that they know and that they trust, but also still kind of have that movie going experience, and they can maybe even make it more fun if they make these rooms soundproof enough to be next to each other. So that's the pitch I have. That's the dream.
I do think that's a good idea. I do think it's kind of like an offshoot of like what Alamo does right now, where you sort of have like these smaller theaters.
Exactly.
Like it's sort of like taking it up to the next level because I think it does make some sense in terms of like the mall. One of the local malls by me was dead for a long time, and now they've been not focusing much on stores, but sort of adding experiences that bring people out. Like there's an escape room place in that mall when it's open. There's like things for kids to do. There's a gym. It's like this mall director basically said like people don't need to shop in physical malls right now. They can go on Amazon. They can do a lot of things. We're gonna try and give them activities they can't do online. That's sort of the idea you're coming with the movies here.
Yeah, so yeah, I would agree. And escape rooms that's a great example actually of like getting people together, getting a group of friends, and you guys are in a room hanging out and like being together for that time. So again, it's very very similar to that. So that's the way the movie theater experience is going to change. I think one other big thing is we don't know what movies are going to be in theaters when at this point. We've had so many movies that have been pushed back that were expected to come out this year during the summer and are coming either out to the winter or till next year, 2021. We're going to have so many movie projects that are backed up because production just literally could not happen because of coronavirus. We're going to have planned productions that wanted to film overseas in different places on different settings that might not be allowed to happen because of travel restrictions with the coronavirus in different countries having different rules. They're going to have different limits to the amount of people you can have on crew and on set. There's so many different things that are going to happen like that. I don't know all the questions to. I don't know all the answers to. But I think that after this year and maybe early 2021, when we see all these movies that were originally going to come out during the summer pushed back, once you get past that threshold of the movies that we know are done and ready to go, I'm very curious to see what happens maybe mid-2021 and forward, and if we have any original content that's going to be exciting that people are going to want to go see, and if there's going to be either a lot of it or a really slim amount.
Yeah, I'm intrigued as well because I mean we talked about offline all the different movies that have gone backwards. I mean Black Widow got pushed back. Bond was the first one that got pushed back in November. We've seen movies get pushed into next year because these movie theaters don't want to lose the gate. And right now, I mean, like you're opening at most theaters, they can only have like 25% of your audience capacity in there, and that's not a problem if you have one movie come out. Like let's say Tenet does come out on the 17th, you could put it on every screen, sort of make up your revenue that way. But like, it's hard to see like a if there's enough movies to sustain it, and b like you're a big movie guy. Would you be the first one running into a theater like and considering the situation, there's no vaccine, no cure for this thing yet?
I'm going to be honest, like I would be. That's the honest answer. One, because if I'm going to spend $20 to see the movie, I am not going to watch it on the TV in my house. Part of me going to the movie theater is my escape. It's I shut my phone off and I focus on the movie and I focus on the experience. I have a harder time doing that at home. It's natural. I'm going to have my phone plugged in. I get a text. I'm going to look at it. It's really harder for me to focus. Even though I have a fairly good setup in my apartment, it's like the mental thing of like once you're in a movie theater, you're there for the movie. You're not there for anything else whatsoever. So I will go because I want to trust the movie theaters for the process that they have. I also want to support the movie theaters because I love going there, and the only way they're going to be able to stay in business is to have people go. And for the people who work there and own these different theaters, that's how they're going to get business. So I will go. I will abide by all the guidelines. I won't go to a Saturday night, what would be a primetime show. Maybe instead I'll go to a Wednesday at 3:00 if I can, or Wednesday or like Tuesday night when it's like not as crowded. Maybe I'll take those little precautions, but I will be going to the movie theater when they open. And because Tenet's the first one scheduled to come out, we'll see if that still is on track. Right now, I'm a little bit pessimistic, but if Tenet's coming out in theaters, you can bet your bottom dollar I'm going to be sitting in a comfy seat watching it in theater.
Yeah, and Tenet's an interesting test case being the first one back because Christopher Nolan has made it clear it's like this is a movie that has to be experienced in theaters. I'm not putting it on streaming. I'm gonna wait till I can get my audiences in there. And one thing he did point out that interesting is that the last trailer that came out, like basically did not put the date out anymore. It just said coming to theaters, like hammering home it's going to theaters. I not guaranteeing the date yet, but it's gonna be in a theater.
Yeah, I mean the thing with Christopher Nolan is his name sells tickets. So if you're going to have a theater, if you're going to have a movie open up the theater business again, Tenet would be it, right? There are very few directors who could sell tickets strictly on their own. So, almost every single Christopher Nolan movie you watch has to be seen through theaters. Can you imagine if Interstellar or Inception came out on streaming first? Like, it would not have the lasting impact and the word of mouth talking about those movies if they came out only on Amazon Prime or Netflix to start. They would have a month of people talking about it, but the ending to Inception would not be still one of the most hotly debated things on the internet if it was strictly coming to streaming first, because the nature of streaming is that it's really cyclical, and you're the talk of the town for a week, and then you're absolutely dead after that.
Yes, I would agree with that. And I think they're going to end up shifting this back. That's my general sense. I feel like that's going to get pushed back a little bit because right now at the timetable, like it does not look like New York City will be ready for movie theaters by the time that date comes out. And that's a lot of tickets they will lose if they don't have that open. So I suspect it's going back a couple of months.
Yeah, I'm willing to bet it gets pushed back to either October or November if I had to bet. If I was a betting man, that's what I would bet.
Yeah, the other interesting one right away, I think, is Mulan's coming out the week after that, and that's one that also could bring in people because it's a live-action Disney film. But again, Disney, I don't know if they're going to want to be the first one out if they don't have New York City.
That's true, and Disney, they had the big release of Artemis Fowl, which they were going to put in theaters, but then they announced it was going to streaming, and that's coming out very soon from the day we're recording this. So we'll see how that performs on the streaming service, and maybe the way that movie performs will be some sort of hint as to the way Disney will approach Mulan. And Mulan's a much bigger project and a much bigger possibility of profit for Disney, but they could use something like if Artemis Fowl has success as a reason or a benchmark to make Mulan maybe available on streaming faster.
Yeah, I think the thing I see is I could see movies like that, like Trolls World Tour, being pushed on streaming because they didn't have huge box office expectations where like, okay, we can make more of a novelty act where people are trapped in their homes, want something to watch. But like, I think any of these big budget movies, like the big blockbusters, like any of your Marvel products, the live action Disney products, Tenet, like Wonder Woman 1984, I think they will wait on those till they can get the audiences in the theaters because I think they know there's money to be made on that. We've seen how desperate they are just to get out of their homes, and if you give them a fresh movie, people will go see it.
It's true, but you already mentioned that with the economic times right now, people aren't going to have the disposable income, and if all these movies are going to be pushing back to a later date, they're going to be competing against each other. People pick out dates to release movies years in advance when they feel like they can beat out their opponents at the movie theater. And now you're going to have Wonder Woman possibly going up against like something like Free Guy or something like that with Ryan Reynolds. Like you're going to have bigger movies coming out around the same time. So the amount of time they're going to be able to dominate the box office is not going to be as high unless your movie is one of a kind and it really breaks the barrier, which is going to be tougher to do when you have so many different movies.
Yeah, I do think the ones that get hurt the most are these smaller budget films, independent films, because like right now it's like they're not going to have as many opportunities to get into theaters because they're just obviously productions shut down. Like the calendars will be so compacted now, all these big projects sort of stacking up on top of each other. A lot of these smaller films not going to have a chance to shine.
Yeah, and the big thing with the smaller films, Mike, is that all these film festivals that would usually be happening now have been canceled.
Yeah.
And so that's where all these films got bought up, and that's where they got the word of mouth attention and the marketing that maybe got people interested to go see them. But now with all the film festivals canceled, what's going to happen to these independent movies? And my big fear is that what the movie industry is going to do when things kind of settle down is in order to get people back in the theater, they are going to create more nostalgia and more things that they know the audiences will come out and see just to try and get people in the seats. And I'm really worried that that's going to lead to even less original ideas appearing in theater because they don't generate as much money as often unless you have like a Christopher Nolan directing the movie. So again, I'm worried for like 2021, how many just run-of-the-mill, like recycled storytelling, big Armageddon-like adventures are we going to get? How many comic book movies? How many different movies are we going to get within that year? I'm really worried about that.
Yes, in other words, you're more concerned we're going to see more of the sequel culture, more of the same, more like, oh, we'll get like Fast 11 fast-tracked into a theater before we get like anything really original.
Exactly. That is what I hear. That is what I hear.
Yeah.
So the thing is, like, thinking for myself personally, I'm tired of comic book movies. I'm tired of sequel culture. I'm tired of Star Wars movies. They put out too many of them too fast. Like, a movie I don't know if you saw Extraction on Netflix with Chris Hemsworth,
I have not seen
but
it yet.
that was like it was like an action movie that it looked like it could have been in theaters. And frankly, there are some aspects of it that are as good as John Wick, and just like the way the action set pieces happen, the violence of it. Seeing that in the theater, I would have been jacked up. But the thing is, that came to streaming. I'd rather see a movie like Extraction in theaters than to see something like Black Widow, because I know what Black Widow is going to give me, because I've seen comic book movies before, and it takes a lot to make me excited and really talk about a comic book movie after I see it. So I'm worried again for like 2021 when we get back to that. We're just going to get more of the same. And like movies go in cycles and the way movies come out. But I think the cycle of sequels and comic books and extravagant storytelling that we've seen now, and stories being retold, I think that stretch is going to continue now for years because of coronavirus kind of expanding it.
Yeah, also one other wrinkle that's interesting to think about now is like obviously the one thing that would seem to be safer right now to do in terms of coronavirus is the drive-in theater aspect. And we've seen some municipalities saying, you know what, like we're allowed drive-ins now. You can go see movies at drive-ins. Do you think this could lead to a mini resurgence for the drive-in?
This is going to be pessimistic, Stanko, but I don't think so, Mike. Because I think that drive-in movie theaters still require people to get out of their homes and to go do something. And I think if you put a new movie on a drive-in theater, and if you put a new movie on Netflix, Amazon, Hulu, wherever, HBO Max, they're going to sit at home and watch it, and they're not going to go drive to a drive-in theater and watch it. Now, I think drive-ins have a proper place for showing classic movies and getting people out of the house for like a way to treat the family, something like that. Like if they showed Jurassic Park at a drive-in, I would be there in a heartbeat to go watch like Jurassic Park or Indiana Jones or something like that. Or even at this point, I would rewatch the trilogy of Lord of the Rings on a drive-in theater because it's remembering something that happened in the past. But a new movie, I think people are still going to want to see the comfort of a new movie in their own house. I think drive-ins are more for filling the nostalgia aspect for that. So that's why I'm a little bit worried that they don't have the lasting impact of the revitalization they're having right now.
Yeah, the other thing I'm concerned about for a driving aspect is that usually they get their bang for the buck. They show you 2 movies in a row. Usually to make sure you're there for the whole night. It's not like, oh, I'm here for driving for 2 hours and I'm leaving. It's like there's not much inventory out there right now. And like honestly, like Tenet and Mulan's a very bad pairing. It's like, and you need to find movies that actually fit together.
That's the worst pairing of all time. That's terrible. So yeah, that's a great point. Like, what movies do you pair together? Do you pair together a new movie with an old movie? And in that case, which movie do you show first? Do you show the new one, which people want to see, or do you show the old one, where people are going to be like, man, show me the new stuff first? I mean, these are stuff I don't have the answer to. It's just questions to ask. I would if they showed again, if Tenet came out, but before it they showed like Inception or Interstellar, or if they showed something like Memento or Insomnia, like something else that Nolan did that's interesting, you're like, all right, this is why I'll go. But that's not for everybody.
Yeah, like if you get me like the Memento, like Tenet, like double feature the drive-in, I'm there. That's my thing. That's my like ticket to go.
Yeah, or like maybe another movie that has like an affliction of time in it and how time is warped and stuff like that, and how you could adjust time. So you could try and get the theme and the motif like that, but again, I think that's harder to buy if you're not a really big movie lover. It's tough to sit still for 2 hours for some people. Imagine trying to do it for 4.5.
Yeah, that's definitely a challenge. And I mean, before we move on to Parasite, I mean, like, let's think right now. Like, obviously, like we are still like a couple of weeks away from having potentially the first major movie back in theaters. A lot of these movie theaters are open around, showing like stock films they have, classics, trying to get people in the audience. Like, what is your belief will happen once we start getting the first couple of big movies back in? You think people are going to be flocking to the theaters? Think it's going to be slower drip? What do you think is going to happen?
I think it's going to be slow, Mike, until we get a movie that really transcends something. And I think that's going to be hard. I think that's going to be hard to do. I think Tenet honestly has a great chance because I think the word of mouth of Nolan's movies is arguably more powerful than any commercials that the movie has. I think that marketing of word of mouth is something that will get people going to the theater. I don't think Black Widow is going to go and generate droves of audiences to a movie theater. I do think I think No Time to Die it will bring people to the movie theater because it's much more of an international thing. But that doesn't come out till November. And I think maybe it's looking like to February 2021, the next comic book movie that I think is really going to generate a ton of interest is The Eternals, right?
Yeah.
But that's like coming out to February 2021. And that's like the next phase of Marvel for everybody. And they're like, what's going to happen? Nobody knows. That will get people to come out to it. But that's not happening for a very long time. So I think it's going to be slow. I think it's going to be slow out the gate. I think Tenet is going to really need to carry that burden and kind of crash through the first wave and hopefully generate some momentum behind it. But I think it's going to be slow to begin with.
I think it'll be slow to begin with, and the industry also has to hope that we don't get this predicted second wave of COVID that could force shutdowns again, because I don't think they can really sustain a second period where they're basically getting no revenue for long stretches.
No, AMC declared bankruptcy, but now they're possibly their stocks are better, so now they're okay. I know a place like Alamo Drafthouses are going to have to close because it's just a local movie theater. If they don't have people going to the theater, it's tough to maintain. So it's going to be hard, Mike. It's really hard to be optimistic about the movie industry and going to the movies. It's really hard to be optimistic right now.
It is hard to be optimistic, but let's change gears a little bit. We'll give people something a little more interesting to talk about. The last time you were on here, we did the movie queue rearranging, the Netflix DVD queue on there. I've been a little behind, but I did finally get to Parasite, so I'm excited to talk about it with you. Before we go to that, I want to put the spoiler warning up. Okay, if you have not seen the 2019 Best Picture winner, Parasite, get out, go watch the movie. If you don't want to be spoiled, then come back and listen to us. But, John, I have to admit, I love this movie.
Mike, is this a perfect movie? I'll take your question.
Yeah, this is a fantastic movie. No doubt in my mind. I was blown away by what I saw.
I told you, it was the best movie of 2019. It's also arguably the most entertaining movie of 2019. It was for me. Give me Parasite over, Endgame. Any day of the week, 100 times over. Parasite for me it's the most mesmerized I've been watching a movie probably since Mad Max Fury Road, when all I wanted to do was talk about it after I watched it. So again, I love Parasite. I've told you 1,000 times. I've written about it. I tell everybody to watch it no matter what. And every time I do, my people are like, that movie was great. How had I never heard of it before? I'm just like, you need to expand your mind. Again, get over the barrier of subtitles, because there's a lot of good movies that have subtitles. So I'm glad that you enjoyed Parasite.
Yeah, I think the subtitles helped this movie immensely, because obviously the whole thing is in Korean. So aside from a couple of English phrases that pop out every now and then, so this is not a movie where you can be staring at your phone, because you will lose lines of dialogue. You'll have no idea what the hell's going on. So it's nice that you can just sort of focus in, pay attention, and they do a good job, because there's not a ton of flashy things going on. It's a very simple, grounded storyline. I think gets very, very deep into issues of class and stuff like that.
Yeah, no, it's very subtle in the way it pokes at social inequality. It pokes at stereotypes and stuff like that. I think one thing actually I saw, it's super subtle that I didn't even know it until I watched a video about it, is there's a point where, we talk about how the father of the poor family,
actually,
I believe his name is
actually
Tak. I don't know his name.
John, before we get there, before we go deeper, can you give people the basic premise of the story here, so we can set up your point better?
How do you explain the basic premise? The basic premise is a out of luck family is the boy of an out of luck family is granted the opportunity to tutor someone in a very wealthy family. And it's basically the wealthy family and the wife of that wealthy family are gullible, and the poor family finds a way to infiltrate the wealthier lifestyle, and then all hell breaks loose.
One by one, basically.
One by one, they infiltrate. It's like a spy espionage ring, and they work their way into the home and infest it like rodents, like ants. And then all hell breaks loose. And the ending of the movie is a horror movie, which you just never see coming. I just see it like that.
Yeah, I think it's a great explanation of it, because honestly, it's a great con story. You love at times you're basically starting a movie, you're rooting for the lower class family to find a way to pull this off and basically sneak in and basically con this upper class family who nice people have no idea what they're doing with their money. And it's interesting watching the parasitic relationship the two sides have with each other, because as I watched the Q&A on the DVD with Bong Joon-ho, and he talks about the whole idea of the parasite nature. He's like, yeah, the lower class family are parasites because they're leeching off of the money of the upper class people, but the upper class people are leeching off of the lower class's labor because the wife doesn't know how to cook, the husband doesn't know how to drive, like they don't know how to do their laundry. They're using them to basically live.
Yeah, again, that's the thing. Like, you say you're rooting for the lower class family, but are you the entire time? Like, I think that's what this movie does so well, is that the idea of empathy, it's just like, the way I describe it and I picture it in my head is like, it's a cluster of barbed wire, where no matter what character you try and untie and stretch out that barbed wire, there's going to be different things that poke you, and they make you go to somebody else to try and understand them, and you're still going to get poked. There are ragged edges to every single character in this movie, and to feel empathy for them is really hard to do. I think that's what's so good about Bong Joon-ho's storytelling, is that you can identify with every character and what they want to do, and you can see why you believe their actions are right and wrong. That's so hard to do when it's usually defined in black and white. This movie is all gray all the time and forces you to think about it, both during and after.
I will also say, I think the one ruble character in the whole movie is the little boy Da Song. Like, he gets the worst shake of the entire movie. That kid is going to be screwed for life.
Yeah, I mean, that kid, how creepy was that shot when they showed the man who's been living underneath the basement, just the whites of his eyes in the staircase? Like, that's not genuinely, it's creepy. That's where this movie is like a horror movie, because it's just scary. So you understand why that kid is having seizures.
Yeah, that kid, obviously, we get most of one of the keys to the con is obviously, like, the kid, like, the parents claim the kid is traumatized and he needs some therapy because he sees, I think the storyline is the original housekeeper, like, her husband's living underneath the house in a basement level, and he sneaks up at night to get food. The kid happened to be going down to get a piece of his birthday cake. He sees the guy, he freaks the hell out, and then for obvious reasons, because you see this random dude in your house that you never met before, like, and then later on in the movie, he's having a birthday party. He sees his father get murdered.
Yeah, I mean, that kid's scarred for life. Like, there's no bones about it. Yeah. So, like,
he's screwed.
Like, the ending to this movie, if you haven't seen it, there's no way you can predict it.
No, you can't.
I don't think there is any way you could possibly predict the ending to this movie. If you watch the first 45 minutes, hour of this movie, you still have no idea what the last half hour brings.
Yeah, you don't. You're sitting there, like, after the whole, like, horror movie fight breaks out, where basically you end up with other people dying, this whole, like, deluge of blood and death, and you're sitting there like, where are we going for the next, like, 25 minutes?
Yeah, and then the ending is, I think, made you like think if you think it's real or not, of like of the son of the poor family being able to get rich, buy the house, and save his father. Is that just a dream? Is he just writing it? Is that real life? Like them walking together and hugging in the living room. It's this movie makes you think on so many different levels. Even when it's like not blatantly explaining things to you, it's putting things in the back of your head that kind of suck you in. And there's one-liners that just stick with you. Like, I believe it is after the poor aspect of this Korean town is flooded, and they're all sitting together in the giant assembly room, and they're sleeping in wet clothes and stuff like that. And the father's talking to the son about, you know what plan never fails? Having no plan at all. And talks like that just stick with you, that you know the poor people, like, sometimes they can't plan for anything because they don't know what they have, and you can't plan because then you can't have failure. Failure is not disappointment. And there's so many aspects and levels to this movie from a societal and economic aspect like that.
Yeah, speaking of the level, that's another interesting theme that sort of plays throughout this movie, that they play with the idea of the height of the actual, like, homes of the people. Like, the poor family is in a subterranean, like, apartment, basically. You see, like, it's in squalor, like, they are basically, there's junk everywhere. It's a disaster. They have to climb to, like, the top of their toilet to get Wi-Fi access. And you have this beautiful rising structure of the rich family's home. I like the idea of how they play with the levels, sort of a metaphor of stratification of classes.
Oh yeah, I mean the scene after it is the son's birthday and it's raining, so they have to come home, and so so the poor family has to escape, and they're just running downstairs, which are constantly flooding with water. It's like they're running through the different like mazes in an anthill, where you only see the top, right, and you can see kind of what happens, and that's like the rich people in this Korean society. You see that aspect, but if you dive deeper, and if you go underground, there's so many things built on top of each other with different mazes connecting to different things, and that's what it was like with this poor family trying to escape back to what they had to see that it was all gone. And it's like that thing of allegory of the cave, right? You learn this in middle school or high school, where it's like if someone comes out of the cave and they discover something new on the outside, for them to go back into the cave, they can never have that same experience again of not being able to have what they experienced on the outside. And literally coming to fruition for this family when they go back down, they see their home flooded, where they have to go back to the cave, like the cave of having nothing at all. They know they can't live that way anymore and have any happiness that way because they've experienced something else on the outside on top of that anthill.
Yes, I would agree with that. I also like the use of the red herring of this, like not the red herring. I'm trying to think what's the proper term is. Basically, is like the foreshadowing of the idea of the smell, because we basically see early in the movie that Da-san basically points the con out immediately because he says that all the people smell the same, which should not be if they all are coming from different places. And then the idea of the smell gets brought up throughout the film, leads to the point that's the trigger that leads the father to kill the rich man.
Yep. And so speaking of the smell, at some point the rich husband is talking with his wife on the couch while their son is camping in the teepee in the yard.
That was one hell of a scene, by the way.
What?
That was one hell of a scene, by the way.
It was a great scene. So he said something along the lines to his wife of, he's talking about the father who's driving the car, and he goes, that his smell, that crosses the line. And it's another thing of like crossing the line of rich and poor and crossing that line of having and have not. And if you look at the movie too, and I need to send you this clip, it's from a private movie Facebook group, but the way Bong Joon-ho frames things is that there's always like either a wall, a table, like a piece of like fabric, like laundry hanging down. But the idea of crossing a line is so obvious. Once it's pointed out, the characters always are crossing a line when they're doing something. Like the first time the poor boy is going up to tutor the rich daughter of the family, you see the rich wife or the rich mother cross the line going up the stairs, followed 2 steps later by this poor boy crossing the line going up the stairs after. If they keep on crossing that line, keep on pushing that line forward until eventually that line is crossed. So again, you mentioned that smell, that goes into the idea of crossing the line, which Bong Joon-ho put together in the way he directs the film. He never directly calls it out by any means, but it's just putting that in the subconscious where if somebody points it out, you automatically have those puzzle pieces fit in your head.
Yeah, indeed. I also want to touch a little bit on Ki-woo, the poor son who basically gets the whole plot story, because I think it's interesting how like he basically gets set up by his friend Min, who is going off to study abroad, and I feel like he starts trying to copy Min's like role. He basically tries to fill his shoes, and basically he's at times quoting word for word things that Min said earlier in the film to him. He's basically reciting the lines over like verbatim. And I think that was a very interesting take. It's sort of like, you know, he basically trying to pretend to be someone else to sort of escape his own reality.
I think so, and I think it's also like you try and become part of like the society that you're in. And I think you it's like emulating what you want when you can't have it. So like say if I was like that, for me speaking, like back in middle school or high school, if I didn't have something, I pretended like I have it and did everything I could to act like I had something. And that's what that character did, where he tried to pretend to be something else. He tried to pretend to have someone else's charisma because he didn't have it, but he did everything he can to try to achieve it in his own way. So I think it's again being persuaded that you're not good enough, that you need to be somebody else.
Yeah, that's true. What do you think of the Scholar's Rock? That was sort of like brought into to the family, given them as a gift by Min at the beginning, saying like, and it sort of pretends, oh, like wealth is coming your way, and then we see Ki-woo basically clinging to that rock throughout the movie. It's sort of like I feel like he's basically just hoping that this will somehow work out for him, and it doesn't.
Well, yeah, he says that wealth will come your way, good fortune will come your way, and they're clutching onto this rock as an idea of hope, right? And I think it's that idea that if you keep on hoping for wealth, if you keep on hoping for good fortune, if you keep on hoping for these things, that eventually it's going to weigh you down and it's going to drown you. And much like how the entire core aspect of this Korean society is drowned by water, you're going to find yourself suffocating and drowning yourself if you just keep on grasping onto the things that you can't get and that you can't have. And which is why it's kind of funny, because this family did all the steps where they weren't just hoping, they were trying to achieve it. They were doing everything they can. They were conning a rich family. But in the end, it's literally that rock falling down the stairs, awakening the crazy man downstairs, and the blood that it's soaked with, is that eventually the idea of good fortune and wealth and what's going to come to you may be soaked in blood for the things you'll get to try and have it. So it weighs on you both emotionally and mentally, the idea of that good fortune and wealth that you'll do everything to achieve.
Yeah, and we got a great visual of that at the I think it's basically the end of the Scholar's Rock plot that he's basically carrying around with him when he goes down to try and talk to the crazy man to basically apologize for they were responsible for the old housekeeper's death because they basically like gave her a concussion. She basically bleeds out in the basement. And then at the end, when he's escaping, he bashes Ki-woo's head in with the Scholar's Rock. You get that brilliant shot of him laying on the ground with the blood mixing with the fancy liquors on the floor. That was a great visual.
Oh, it's an awesome visual. It's the perfect visual of the two different societies trying to mesh together and how they can't blend together. They only come together and form a line. Like, again, the visual storytelling by Bong Joon-ho in this movie. Picture perfect.
Yeah, it was great. I also like the idea, the thread sort of connects the beginning and the end of the movie, where we see the beginning of the movie that Ki-woo basically climbing to the top of his toilet to get the Wi-Fi signal, basically searching for a signal there. At the end, he basically is decoding the Morse code message that his father sends him underneath the rich family's house, which has since been sold from them to a German family. And I do think it was cool that we're sort of getting this sort of parallel, the devolution of technology as the movie went on too.
Yeah, no, that's very true. And the way of communicating through Wi-Fi and searching for it, but go back to the simplicity sake of the Morse code. I love how in the beginning they're searching for that Wi-Fi. They go to the highest point by the toilet or whatever to get the Wi-Fi. And then there's the shot of when their home is flooded. You have the daughter just sitting on the toilet while it's exploding, smoking a cigarette. That's at the point where she was getting her bliss of communicating with free Wi-Fi. And now instead, the world's literally falling to shit around her, literally, and she has no Wi-Fi to worry about, and she's just smoking a cigarette. So again, going back to the same spot with the Wi-Fi, and it's when that's when they're at their highest, that's when they're at their happiest at the start of the movie, when they can get that free Wi-Fi. It's something that simple, and then at the end, when they're in their home and it's ruined, she's back in that same spot with no happiness at all.
Yeah, this is just such a fantastic story throughout. Tons of layers, a lot of great complexity, great characters developed throughout this movie too. And I have to say, like, I feel bad for Ki-woo. Da Sung's the clearest loser in this movie, but who do you think is the biggest scumbag of the movie?
Who do I think is the biggest scumbag of the movie? I mean, it's tough to say. I honestly think it's probably. I'm really bad at these names, so I apologize. But I think it's. I don't know. I would have to say it's probably the father of the wealthy family, Gyun-si. Again, pronouncing that is tough. Yeah. But I think because he is least willing to learn about the other aspects of society, those less fortunate to him, when he has the means and the ability to understand it fully. I think the wife, Young Kyo, I think she is the star of the movie from an actor standpoint, from a performance standpoint, because I don't feel that she's scumbag for taking advantage of the poor people, because she's just completely ignorant to the fact they exist. And trying to convince her otherwise would be near impossible. Meanwhile, that wealthy father, he has the knowledge where he could understand it, and he chooses not to.
Yeah, he's pretty bad. I will also say too, like, he's number one. I think number two is the poor daughter. I don't think she comes across very well in this movie either.
I think she is absolutely hilarious, and I won't say a bad word about her because she made me laugh so many times.
I will say, though, her gambit to get the chauffeur fired so her father could be the new driver was actually hysterical.
Yeah, it was great. And that scene with again, this is young Kyo, the rich wife, when she's like holding up the underwear with like the gloves, thinking like it's toxic poison, and like the acting in there, that's so over the top and wonderful. They talk about that scene, like the way they interact as a couple, explaining how they have to fire the driver. It's pure comedy. How would someone think to do this in the car? Blah 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 blah. That scene cracked me up.
Yeah. Also, I think right behind Da Sung, his biggest loser in the movie is the chauffeur driver. Although he probably did better getting out of that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he was getting paid very handsomely, but I mean, he gets fired without cause, and we don't hear from him again. So it's a tough loss.
Tough luck, and the housekeeper gets a bad draw too. And I think the poor peach allergy thing was also very unfortunate.
Yeah, the peach allergy thing was unfortunate, but I mean, the way that they achieved that peach allergy buzz thing and like the hot sauce like blood, and you have the father Kiyasa when he lifts the napkin up to show it to the rich wife, to show it to young Kyo, and it's like he has the face of pain as he shows up the napkin with hot sauce, showing that so the wife thinks it's blood. Again, a great moment in the movie. I also love the visual shot, strictly of when the daughter is blowing, the poor daughter, Ki Jung, is blowing the peach fuzz off the peach before they put their plan into action, and you see the peach fuzz blowing in the air slightly. That's a great visual from Bong Joon-ho.
Yeah, Bong Joon-ho. I mean, there's like 5 different movies in this one movie. Okay? I mean, you got the heist aspect of them trying basically just one by one find their way into this home. You have the themes of class in there. You have the family relationships. There's like something for everybody.
Yeah, there's something for everybody in this movie. Everybody should watch it. Everybody should watch this movie.
Yeah, this was an A+ on your chart, right?
It is an A+. Yeah, it is an A+.
Yeah, indeed. I second it. A+. Go watch Parasite. Get over the subtitles. You can deal with it. If you've watched Laws and you've watched the Jin and Sun scene, basically it's that kind of commitment for a whole movie.
Yeah, I mean, turn your phone off if you can. I mean, you're going to have to read the subtitles. Please don't get scared away by the subtitles. Every person who's seen this movie has either told me or texted me going, it was totally worth it. So at this point now, it won an Oscar. It's the first foreign film to win Best Picture. You saw the ovation it got at the Oscars, where everybody was happy for Bong Joon-ho and everybody involved with the movie that it won. It got its deserved praise. And frankly, this movie, with the way the Oscars are going to be this year, if we have awards at all, this is going to be the best motion picture that for a very long time this year.
Yeah, it will. John, thanks for all the time today. I really appreciate it. Before I let you go, I was going to ask everybody every week on here, we can get some streaming recommendations from people. What have you been streaming of late?
What have I been streaming of late? Well, luckily, Redbox has been doing this buy one, get one free thing, so I've been dominating Redbox. I mentioned I finally saw Sonic, finally saw The Invisible Man, saw the Rhythm section, saw The Way Back. The Way Back with Ben Affleck, that basketball coaching movie, was very, very good. Ben Affleck was excellent. It's not your typical sports movie. There are different layers to it, and the ending, I personally loved. I can see how some people wouldn't expect it, but it's well worth the price of admission. And otherwise, HBO Max has come out, Mike. I don't know if you have that, but their movie library is incredible. I've watched the Maltese Falcon, the Manchurian Candidate. I watched again. They have all the Turner classic movies. So I'm going back and watching movies from the 1940s and 50s as well. I'm falling asleep to episodes of Whose Line Is It Anyway, because I love that show. So those are the things that I'm streaming right now.
They have Whose Line on HBO Max, all of them?
Yes, Whose Line, all the original 8 seasons, every single episode. It's perfect. Colin Mosley and Ryan Stiles are the best comedy duo of all time. I stand by it as of right now, today.
Yeah. I love that show. I mean, back in the day, I watched it on ABC. I've watched the reboot on CW too. I do think the incredible thing is they still got it. Those guys.
Yeah, no, they did absolutely, and I watched the reboot as well. It was not terrible by any means. I just didn't stick with it as much. There is something to the old episodes. The old episodes they still stand the test of time. They're still incredibly funny, and I have fallen asleep watching to them for the past week straight.
Yeah. What is your go-to Who's Line game, and you're excited when it comes on the episode?
Oh, that's a great question. That's a great question. I mean, Scenes from a Hat is a very popular one. So that's a little cliche, but I do love that one. But also, I think Dinner Party, when you have the one guy or gal being like the host of a dinner party, people ringing the doorbell, coming in, acting out as different things. I think there have been some great moments from that. So I think the most Scenes from a Hat is probably number one, but a close number two is Dinner Party.
Yeah, my top three, I think, of all time. I think it's four I really love. Scenes from a Hat's obvious. Whenever we get a hoedown, that's always fantastic.
Hoedown is good. Ryan Stiles hates the hoedown.
Ryan Stiles, he does hate the hoedown. It hasn't been on the new one as much. The hoedown is great. I think questions always fun because I love watching them try and trip each other up with the questions. That's always hilarious.
It is, but I wish I could do a questions only game because I think I'd be all right at it. I say that, and I'm sure I would get schooled by somebody. But it is funny to try and carry conversation with only questions. That is a good one.
That's a good one. And another one that I think they've done this much better in the new version is they have remember the game that was like 2 lines only, basically, where like Colin basically is the normal person, and the other two only have 2 lines they could use for the entire scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. They have the twist on the modern version is basically like instead of being 2 lines, they get 2 audience members' phones, and each person gets a phone. They have to read a text from the phone as their lines.
Oh, okay. I haven't seen that from the newer episodes. I must have missed those segments. But
it's been the last year or two they've done that, and it's hysterical because you get really funny insights of what these people are actually doing. The people who volunteer their phones. It's hysterical. Some of the lines they can sneak in their situations.
I can imagine they're incredibly out of context.
Yeah, it's fantastically out of context. And I remember one that actually aired recently. I think one of the lines somebody read off the text is like, "That show's still on."
Oh. I mean, fair enough.
Yeah, and then they were taking digs at that audience member for the rest of the show, like they do with the running jokes. It was hilarious.
Yeah, I will say if you like improv too, you should watch the Middleditch and Schwartz special on Netflix, where they have 3-hour-long improv specials. And what they do with that hour and all the improvs for those 3 specials was dynamite funny. And so if you do like comedy, if you do like improv, there are 3 hours of laugh out loud stuff with Middleditch and Schwartz on Netflix.
Yeah, I think I actually watched the Seinfeld stand-up special recently on Netflix. That was a little meh for me. I feel like he's kind of like...
I didn't like it.
Yeah.
I was bored.
Yeah, like there were only like 3 times the whole thing I actually laughed out loud.
Yeah, I didn't even laugh out loud 3 times. I put it on as background noise, and it didn't grab my attention at all. So I would agree with you. It's not that great.
Yeah, it's not that great. The other Netflix thing is I did finish Tiger King.
Did you finish what? Say that one more time.
I finished Tiger King.
Tiger King?
Yeah.
I mean, you're late to the party. What did you think of Tiger King?
It is like you said. You nailed it perfectly. It's that the only ones you root for are the Tigers. Everybody else sucks.
Yeah, everybody else is a piece of garbage. Everything else is a hot piece of garbage.
I will say, though, I think the people who actually work for the zoo themselves, like the lower level people, are not bad. I think anybody who like is an animal handler or above is awful.
Yeah, I mean, but the thing is, if you're still working for those zoos and working for those animals, you're feeding them like the shitty food and stuff like that. Like you're still contributing to the problem.
Yeah, I get the sense though, with some people, it's like, you know what, like if I'm not here, maybe somebody far worse will be doing this job.
Yeah, I mean, they think that they're doing well. It's just, I mean, and now Carol Baskins got ownership of.
She did. She got the zoo.
Shows. She got the zoo, but also they reopened they reopened the investigation into her ex-husband who disappeared, and there were reports that like in the reopening of the investigation, it was very obvious that the will that was left by her ex-husband who disappeared was forged. Like, there have been like official statements that came out that said lawyers were like, I don't know how this got passed. It's obviously a forgery. So she's going to go down too.
Yeah. I'm just waiting for, I think when the inevitable season 2 comes, it's going to be like as big a disaster as Making a Murderer season 2 was.
I don't think there's going to be season 2. Because I don't think the parties involved are going to want to do it again. Especially Carol Baskin. She's not going to go on camera ever again.
They're going to do something with it because it was too much of a hit. They're going to find some way to make a meal of it. It's not going to be nearly as good.
What I would rather have like a 3-part, like legit political, like police investigation into it. Like from strictly like what is illegal, what is not, and what has happened since the show.
Yeah.
That's what I want. Like what is good, what is bad, without the fluff.
Yeah, I can see that. And John, thanks again for coming on. Next time you come on, like hopefully we'll be back on in the summer. Maybe by that time we'll have some movies to sort of lay out and sort of do what we did last year, do the summer movie preview. Well, it might be a bit later in summer because depending on when these theaters actually open.
I mean, it's probably going to be a late summer, early fall movie preview. But yeah, I'm down.
Yeah, I know you're down. And for those who want to follow you on social media, keep up with the blog. How can they do that?
Blog is stankosstance.wordpress.com, and I am on Twitter and all social media at jstanko99.